everybody, Ty here. Hope everybody is doing well. So, originally I was going to be talking about the tropics in this video, and I mean I am still technically, but the thing to make note of here is imminent development right now, of course, it's not likely. Don't worry, the 7-day outlook is still there, and this is when our interest kind of picks up. It's going to be towards like the back half of the weekend. It's going to be due mainly to a frontal boundary that's going to be coming through towards the back half of the week and into the weekend. So I wouldn't be too concerned about this area as of right now if you're looking at any sort of plans for vacation or just getting away for the holidays. Like I said, I don't think that this will be a major storm or anything like that, but since nothing's really changed since we talked about it last night, we're going to switch things up a bit. We're going to talk about the month ahead here. You can pretty much say that we're pretty much already in July at this point. It's literally about 6 hours away but at the time you're making this video here. So let's go ahead and kind of get into things with that. So what to expect for July from this point, what to expect from July. It would be, for the most part, just about everybody, unless you're in the central to southern part of Alaska, is going to be above average here. There's not too many other areas. This tiny little sliver of West Cali, maybe you're going to be at equal chances. So either or could occur with that, but for the most part, everybody is going to be dealing with above average temperatures across the board here. It's kind of been the norm to see this during the summertime over the last few years. It's not quite as significant as previous years, though. I will say that much in regards to the confidence here. And there's going to be a lot of shifting going on as we get towards the middle and back half of the month here as we go forward. So I'm not surprised to see the West in particular looking like they're going to have high confidence in above average temperatures, especially towards the Northwest. Northeast, this has been a common thing. We've been having anomalous years for quite a while. So as we're building a new average over a 10-year data plot or more, this is not the most surprising thing to see, but just definitely a sign of the times, if you will. But another area that we also have to talk about with higher confidence and above average temperatures is over towards southern Texas. A little bit drier over here as well, so not surprised to see these two kind of in conjunction with one another. Again, as I mentioned before, really the areas that are going to be expected to be below average are going to be over towards like southern Alaska. That's really it. Over here, it's going to be kind of an equal chance here. And I'll get into why that actually is in just a little bit, and why the lower 48 as a whole is still going to be above average here. Of course, we need to take a look at the precip map as well. And I'm especially interested in this area because with the wind shear beginning to lighten up over towards this area as we anticipated with the last tropical update we had, especially as we get towards mid-July and beyond here, there is going to be more opportunities for some tropical development here. Now, typically during the month of July, we can anticipate usually about one storm every year. This is going to be about an average season according to a lot of the outlooks. So it wouldn't surprise me if we were to get a sneaky little tropical wave, tropical depression, or even more to go through here. I don't expect anything major out of this at this time, but as we know, things can change pretty quickly. Then, of course, over towards the southwest right now, it's monsoon season. So while the attention is shifting just a little bit off to the east here, we're still going to have opportunities for showers and storms. And the other thing to make note of here, this is just showing above average precip probabilities. This isn't showing much in regards to the equal chances. So for the most part, these areas don't see a lot of rain, but it doesn't mean that you won't see rain at all. And the same can be said even for these below average areas here. While for the most part, it's going to be a little drier than it usually is over towards these regions, it's not meaning that you aren't going to see a lot of rain. The area where I will be the most concerned for that right now might be over towards southern, southeastern Texas. This is going to be due in large part to the weather pattern that we have as this ridge builds out towards the west. You're going to be caught on the eastern flank of that. So it's going to help kind of cut off that Gulf moisture. Not to the point where you won't deal with showers or storms or deal with humidity, but it's going to help kind of nix some of the forcing that you would need over towards these areas. And again, things can easily change with this as well. We have a whole month that we're looking at here, so this isn't going to sum up every day. So I just want to make sure that that is emphasized on here. Over towards Alaska, it's pretty much a similar deal. We see the northern half of the state looking pretty active. Southern half is a little bit quieter. For the most part, equal the chances over towards the southern half of the state. So even so, like I said, with these areas, it's not really going to tell the full story of what every day in July is going to be like. It's relatively a rough idea, I would say, at this point. So the reason why Alaska in particular is really interesting in this case is because of the oscillations that we have here. Anyone that's a regular of the channel, watches a lot of the videos, you know which ones I'm talking about. We have the one towards the Arctic Circle, the Arctic Oscillation, and the North Atlantic Oscillation towards Greenland. As you can see, we're in a negative phase over towards the NAO, so this should usually, in theory, try to cool down these northeastern states. Unfortunately, with the way the jet stream is set up right now, that cold air isn't going to quite make it all the way over there, so we're still going to be pretty warm over towards these regions as of right now. We haven't had anything really dig down into this area as of right now, so not going to be much in the way of troughing to help aid that cold air and moving further south. But over towards Alaska, where we have this extra cold air mass that's coming in, it's kind of circulating in that polar regions, this is going to help that cold air sink towards the southern half of the state, and thus this is why that region is going to be cooler than average. By the time we move towards the following week, we still see that negative phase right there. But like again, as I mentioned before, typically when this happens, and especially during the fall and the winter months, this becomes more prominent here. But during the summertime, not going to be the case here. You can kind of see the ridge popping up right here on the bottom of the screen. And then over here towards this region, this is where that cold air mass is over towards the Aleutians. As we continue to move forward, we're going to mainly see all that cold air stay north of the border here. And everybody at this point is going to be relatively above average. And even as we head into August, it looks like we're going to continue to see that trend be dominant here. And also we're going to see more ridging actually begin to occur out towards the southwestern states. So eventually, for those of you that are enjoying the rain over towards the southwest, all good things must come to an end. And it looks like as we get towards next month, we might have that monsoon start to take a little bit of a break here, maybe even shut off for a brief period. I do think as we go forward, we're going to start to see another opportunity begin to emerge, maybe as we get towards maybe late August as of right now. But obviously we're looking well out into the future for that, so not a lot of confidence, and of course, as we know, things can change pretty quick. Now, regarding the temperatures, what all of what we just talked about here, what that's going to look like on this map, and we actually have an actual figure for that, an actual number. We'll start out the month for a lot of these states. Mainly, it's going to be right above average, about 5 to 10 degrees. Some of these areas where you're seeing the darker shades of orange and the red were about 15, maybe a couple isolated pockets of 20 degrees above average. In that first week and a half into 2 weeks here, right over towards the west coast of California, we could be seeing some areas where about 5, 10, maybe even 15 degrees below average for a brief period. But very quickly, this ends up going away. As we go further along here, there's not really too many areas that are expected to be below average at this point. Everybody's going to be either at average or just a little bit above for the most part. Now, as we watch things develop further and that ridge begins to form to the west, this is where we see those higher temperatures starting to reign supreme here. We're starting to get 15 to 20, maybe even a couple isolated pockets of 25 degrees above average by the time we get towards the end of the month and heading into August. Hence why we have those higher confidence areas over here towards this region particularly. As far as the precipitation is concerned, of course, as we mentioned before, with the unknowns of that potential tropical wave that could develop here, of course, the Florida Peninsula is a point of interest, as well as the Panhandle. Then as we continue to go forward, that Gulf moisture is really going to continue to kind of go unabated towards these regions. And then with the ridge finally moving out of our area now towards the eastern half of the U.S., especially east of the Mississippi, this is going to help increase those rain and thunderstorm chances throughout the course of the days here. So I'll anticipate to see plenty more action over towards these areas, along with any potential frontal boundaries that come through. Now, with the way the setup is also, especially with the ridge forming out towards the west, this is going to make these areas a little bit drier as well. So you're just not really seeing a whole lot of activity over towards this region. A lot of these storms are going to be going off to the north, maybe dip off to the south here. But the way the ridge is set up, even then, these areas just aren't really going to be affected by it. So anywhere east of the Mississippi, like I said, summer showers and storms still look like they could reign supreme pretty much for the rest of this period here, even as we head into August. So abundant moisture still available over here. Towards these states, it's a little bit more questionable. And then over towards the northeast, we could kind of be hanging right in the balance here, so to speak. So wrong map here. But let's go ahead and take a look at what each day could look like on the simulated radar as of right now. Now, you have to forgive me, we're kind of sitting on a model cusp here. But what we have here basically is pretty much a rough estimate of what each day could be like. Like I said, the further we get into range, the harder it's going to be to kind of nail any of the details down. But as we get into these first few days of July here, you can see that we have quite a bit of activity, mainly oriented towards the southeast. As we go forward, it's pretty much going to be a prominent feature, especially as we get towards the July the 4th weekend. So the question is, this low pressure here, what ends up happening with this? If this develops any further, we could have a tropical depression, maybe a tropical storm at best that develops here. And this is going to cause some problems in regards to maybe some outdoor plans, fireworks, so to speak. But outside of that, nothing too crazy. Still have plenty of activity over here towards the northern states to start out. But what I want you to pay attention to is watch what happens as we go forward and that ridge begins to develop. You'll be able to see it here in due time, especially as we get towards the middle part of the month. We still get our showers and storms to develop here. Here's a monsoonal region, and then you start to see that you start to see the high beginning to pop up here and there. Oh wow, this is the wrong model here. Oops. I guess I'll leave that in. But we're still getting a pretty good idea of what's going on here at this point, even in the mid-month with the GFS here. We keep it rolling. There's that ridge. Over towards the center is where we still have those chances of showers and storms. But beyond that point, though, notice how everything is pretty much right on or east of the Mississippi River Basin from that point. Large part of that's going to be due to the ridge, so it's going to be a lot of warm or hot and dry air over here, unfortunately. Eventually, we do start to see a little bit of a breakthrough as we get towards the back half of the month. That jet stream does look like it dips just a little bit, so we get those northern plains states back into the fold here by the time we get towards the end of this time frame here. So, a lot to keep track of, but in particular, a lot more to watch if you're off towards the eastern states. If you're towards the Midwest and off to the Northwest and western states, it's going to be a little bit slower to start out with, but as time goes on, I think we'll eventually get out of this little dry spell that we may be anticipating here. But that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you found it useful. If you did, make sure you smash that like button and decimate that subscribe button. I will see you guys very soon. Don't forget to leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are on your area and what you're hoping for. That being said, everybody take care and have a wonderful rest of your evening.